Yes, everybody. How you doing? Welcome, welcome, and welcome once again to the Spurs Talk Show. I'm Sean Butler. How you doing? I hope you are all happy and healthy doing the things that you love with the people that you love doing them with. This is an impromptu live stream. I went out this morning, guys, and I did my Tottenham walk with Bugsy. And in that, I had all this information around, well, let's presuppose that he's going to be here for a 2-year deal. And what does that mean? Can we really commit? I come back, I start to upload it. And guess what? The news drops that he has signed on a 4-year deal. So all of the in the knows were wrong once again in the don't knows. But we're here now to talk with a couple of favorites from the YouTube community around what does an Postecoglou squad look like in order to play AngeBall for 4 years. We're going to take a little look at how Celtic set up, the people that were the key players in that system, how they kind of went about their business, both on the ball and off the ball. And then we're going to sort of pivot that and see how it looks for Tottenham, and then use the old tier maker systems to see which of the players are key players, squad players, get out of the club, or somewhere in between. Ladies and gentlemen, please smash the like button on your way in. Make yourself comfortable because the Spurs Talk Show, it starts right now. Lovely touch from him, though. Harry Kane, Lucas Moura, can you do something, please? Last chance, Matt Doherty! Oh, you shite! There could be Don't fuck it up now, Go and win it! Let's go for a chance! Stephen Bergwijn through! Win it, Stephen! Come on! Yes! He's won it! I won it! Oh my God! Oh my God! We did it! Yo, check this out. How you doing, guys? Welcome. We're going to get straight into it. I hope you're all doing things that you love with us this afternoon. It is this afternoon. It's 1:34. Let's get cracking. Let me bring in the two guys who are going to help us out with the tactics and the squad selector. Before we say hello to people in the comments, let's say hello first and foremost to the man from down under who's been calling for this guy's name for months and months and months, and he's finally got his man. It's Paul Hotspur. How you doing, Paul?
Postecoglou's blue in my army. I'm so happy, man. I got my man. Let's go.
Mate, what time of the day is it or night is it down there? What time are we talking about? 10 o'clock?
It's 10:35 p.m.
Lovely, mate. Lovely. You having a beer to celebrate Postecoglou on a 4-year? 4 more years, Paul. 4 more years.
4 years of Premier League domination. Sod this top 4 crap that people go on about. We're going all the way.
We're going for it. And we're going to go with it not just as a duo today, we're going to go as a trio. Welcoming into the studio, my man, my favourite man from overseas, the other way. Not that way to Australia, but this way to America. Let's bring in Jack Kanicki. How you doing, Jacko?
The other way. Good to be alongside you, Shawnee, once again on this channel. It's been a while. And then Just Prophet, he's like the Batman signal. We're putting it out there for him to, be put in good use. And I imagine there's going to be sweet dreams of Ange tonight for you, Paul.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be. I don't know. I don't know if I'll be able to sleep for a couple of days actually, but we'll see how we go.
Started with a red X, now we're at a green check mark.
Well, you've come over. You've come over to the light. That's the main thing.
Most people have, mate. I think most people have. I was listening to you speaking on We Are Tottenham TV earlier. Even Sim, who I did the We Are Tottenham TV when it was first like intimated that it was happening.
Yeah,
with Sim,
he weren't up for it, was he?
He didn't come across like he was up for it. He was very much sitting on the fence. But I feel like over the last 24 hours, he's been won over by the idea of playing some proper football, which is what we all want to see, right?
It's only because I've seen him. Like, no, people haven't seen him, so I've seen him for years. So if people had seen what I'd seen, they would have been all for it from the get go. But now people are starting to, look at how his teams play and see him as a person. They'll all come round.
100%. We're talking about coming round and all the people. Let's just quickly say hello to as many as we can in a couple of seconds. From the people that are here right now, 155 of you in the house. Welcome, everybody. Please smash the like button for me and smash the subscribe if you haven't already. Also, congratulations to Jack and to Dave from the Irish Hotspur who hit the big 10K. Jack, how you feeling about that one, my man?
Like I said, every time I try to thank people for it, it's really hard because it's kind of happened really quickly. I looked at it, it was just like maybe because of the wave of Ange and everything that it just sort of happened just overnight all of a sudden. Like, I'm not kidding, yesterday we were at like 9,800 something, then all of a sudden we finished on like 10K basically. So I feel like words, like I've said, have just been like kind of just fumbling out of my mouth, just trying to like thank everybody. But I'm just got a huge good document of WhatsApp voice notes that are, getting cooked up. So don't you worry, everybody. A proper thank you to everybody is going to be given out. And when Dave's back from his vacation with the Outlad, he and I are going to make a nice, I think, sort of fun, sort of video as well to sort of kind of thank everybody too. I think with maybe some embarrassing things, tied into it. So definitely.
Nice.
Yeah. No.
Well, congratulations, mate. Massive congratulations to you. Get over if you haven't already been part of the 10K. I'm sure you all are, but if you're not, then the Irish Hotspur is where you can find it. I will get the link up and stick it into the comments in a second. Let's just get through and say hello to a few people. Tom Thacker's in the house. Big up, Sean. I hope you're well. Hope you are too, Tom. We got Tot Spurs. What's happening, Tot Spurs? I hope you're okay, my man. We got a new member, Rob Wallace. Big up, Rob. I think you remember before, so maybe it's just a reload. But we very much appreciate your support. I'm not sure if you're a pony or a puppy, whichever one you are. Welcome back to the team, or welcome if it is your first time. Really appreciate the support on the channel. Proud to be a Geordie is here. Listen, I love you, my man, and you must be terrified, quaking in your boots because you took Tottenham out of the top 4 this season, but we're going to be back playing brilliant football next season. It's going to be an interesting one. Good to see you, mate. I hope you're okay. Who's Oscar's in the house as well? Big up, Sean. Big up, my man. Carl Simpson's here, as is Derek, as is Lisa, as is Liquid Len. Big up to all of you guys. Mark Cousins is in the house. Van Football, that's Ollie. Good to see you, Ollie. Eddie22's in the house as well. What's up, Sean? Good day, mate. Ripper. We all need this to work. We all need to stand behind Big Ange and give him a fair chance, 100%. Alan Sibley's in the house as well. One Delowitz is here. Good afternoon to all of you. Bump of K. What's happening, Bump of K? Good to see you. We stay clear of that stuff on these channels. Who else we got? Billy Price in the house. But exactly, yeah. Big up Billy Price. Big up John. Big up Hater of the Glazer. How you doing, my man? Good to see you. I was right about Leicester. Yeah, they I knew they were gonna. Well, actually, I said they'd stay up just barely. I think I predicted them to come 17th, so I wasn't quite right. But yeah, they're falling apart like I thought they would. Who else we got? Billy C's in the house. We've also got Ian Shearer. Big up, Ian. Good to see you. Neo Yami's in the house. At least now we'll see attacking football 100%. Phil's in the building. Big up, Phil. Big up, Mia. Big up, Eamon. Paddy Hartnett's here as well. Hi, guys. How you doing? So is Eddie Ryan and Steady as Shark. Anyone else I haven't said hello to yet? Holly's in the house. What's happening, Holly? Good to see you. And Sandra, first visit to the chat room. Well, welcome. Hang around. Please participate. And Blissy's here as well. Dermatron is also a renewed membership. Thanks, Dermatron. Or that might be one of the other team from over there. Get over there to THFC Till I Die if you haven't already, and subscribe to them as well. Thanks for your support, my man. And John Fitzpatrick is here. Big up, John. Who else we got? Nick from Lazy 801. Big up. I spoke to John, Nick, this morning. He said to say hi to you. legit. I said to him, because he was talking and saying, well, who are you talking to? I was like, I talked to quite a few thousand people, and one specific guy always says to say hello to you. And he said, oh, okay, we'll say hello back. So I just thought I'd pass that on. Jeff Stevens was in the house as well. What's happening, Jeff? As is Mark Masculine, Peter M, and Niall is here as well. Big up, guys. Big up. Right, guys. Let me start by before we get into the tactics, because the plan of the show for everyone watching, please get your comments in as we go through it, is to take a look at the tactics board of how Celtic play their football right now with the 4-3-3. We're going to look at the individual positions, who gets the most effort, where's the linchpins, the cornerstones, the key players. Then we're going to kind of pivot and look and see how that could currently fit in a Tottenham squad. And then after that, we're going to go to the tier ranker and then drop the players into wherever we think. So but before we get into the actual tactics, because the tactics are important, we know he's going to play attractive football. But outside of the tactics, and I'll start with you, Paul, because I know you want to wax lyrical about the other side of Ange Postecoglou. If from what you know of him, how much of his success is down to his tactics versus his personality, his man management, his convivial nature, all of those things, his desire and drive to win? What do you think is the balance? And talk me through what you know of him in that regard.
Oh, it's a tricky one. I think his tactics are great. He plays good football, but I think football's all in the head. I think a lot of it is in the head, and when you can just get players, and I've seen him do this mainly with like the Australian national team. We performed in a World Cup and an Asian Cup. I mean, the players had no right to be playing that sort of football and playing so well. So, as well as him setting up the team well, it's the way he motivates. I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible. You won't hear any players bagging him, even the ones he's got rid of. They still regard him with, fondness, that he was a great coach. I mean, the tactics side, that's more Jack's ballpark. He's a computer. I'm a human being. So,
yeah.
But look, I'm excited because I don't think there's too many managers like this around. We've gone more to this money ball statistics kind of management that's got rid of a lot of individuality out of players, and I think we might be able to see a bit of special sizzle coming back.
Yeah. It's an interesting take. That, Jack, talking about the money ball stuff. Obviously, Tottenham have, for all intents and purposes, made some moves, dropped some information to the I don't knows in the media, who say that Tottenham are pivoting to a data-based scouting model. Does that jive with what you know of Ange Postecoglou and the fact that he doesn't seem to work with directors of football? He doesn't seem to feel like he needs them. His knowledge of kind of the micro leagues, or not micro leagues, a disrespectful way of saying it, the lesser known leagues out in Japan or in the kind of corners of the world where there's some superstars that emerge. Is he going to really rely and need Tottenham to pivot in that direction now that he's got 4 years, right? It'd be different if it was a 2-year kind of stopgap, but with 4 years, we're trusting this guy to take us forward. So how does the data-based scouting thing that we're moving to kind of jive with what you know of Ange Postecoglou?
Well, I mean, you feel like he wouldn't be against that sort of thing, where he might be sort of in favor of the fact that maybe a lot of players that you might find in that sort of Moneyball database type system might be a lot of unproven players that, nobody knows about, that are playing in various leagues, like you were sort of saying, Sean, like Kavicha was, like Kim Min-jae was, like the Enciso, for Brighton was, down in South America, etc. These sort of guys that might actually, if given the chance, could really take it in stride and be future superstars, but no one really knows about them yet, and you sort of have to unearth them. You also have to kind of bring them into the team and make sure that they settle in well, etc., to what is obviously basically the most difficult league in the world. I just feel like Ange, I think he's the right guy to be able to do that sort of thing, Sean, but I am a little interested in the fact that he does also already have kind of like, to a degree, top class players, like in a lot of different positions, and he hasn't exactly had that sort of talent ever to really work with. And you would think it could be a strength, but maybe a slight worry at the same time. Whereas, like, in terms of the worry part, like, you just feel like he's always worked with like lesser talented players, lesser quality players, and has been able to produce like a really good product. But maybe that's because they listen to his instructions. They don't like have as much of, their own individual sort of kind of skill and whatnot to be able to think for themselves. So Ange Postecoglou sort of shows them the way of how to play, and they end up like looking much better as a collective than they do really actually as the individual sum of their parts. Whereas Spurs have players like Basuma, have players like Bentancur in midfield, have Harry Kane, have Sonny, have Kulusevski, players that can almost score a goal on their own, take it past 3 or 4 players and produce a bit of magic. And of course, he might have sort of had that to a degree at Celtic, but even most of the Celtic players wouldn't get into this, current Spurs side. And I think that's what's interesting is he's working already with much better players. And does that make his, style of football even more, attractive and even better? Or do maybe certain players, like as they do, because they're kind of big superstars sometimes, do they kind of maybe not take him as seriously, not really accept, his sort of, way of style of play or his way of thinking or whatnot, which is a possibility. I'd like to think, though, that now that he is working with nearly world-class players in certain positions, and the fact that he has that sort of charisma to really like get to guys and to really speak to them honestly, I feel like he actually might thrive, with already a lot of the players that he has. When it comes to the transfer market, though, Sean, I don't think he's really going to turn. I think he will be they talk about him being a yes man. I am a little bit worried about him being a yes man to whatever transfer strategy that we may have. I don't know if he's going to really stick it to Levy. I think he's just going to try to do his very best like he has at other clubs. He obviously hasn't had great resources in the past at other clubs. So this is probably, not going to be all that different to him. And, it's probably even in a weird way going to be weirdly slightly better, despite Spurs, obviously could give managers more money. It might be slightly better than what he's used to. So I don't know. I think he could do well with that scouting department.
Well, look, to me, he's definitely working with new players. Whether or not some of these players are going to fit the system, guys, is interesting to me, especially when we get up the front end of the pitch, when we start talking about the specific role that Kyogo Furuhashi plays, despite getting 34 goals this season. We'll come to it in a minute, but I'm not entirely sure that Harry Kane would, even if he wanted to stay, is really going to fit the specific role that the number 9 plays in the Ange Postecoglou system. And we're going to get to it in a second. Before we do, right, so we'll just go through the kind of the natural positions of how Postecoglou sets up. I want to give a shout out to a channel whose name is James Lawrence Alcott, a big football channel, not Tottenham specific. And he did a video that I'm kind of ripping or taking a little bit of the information from here. I don't necessarily agree with it. I take a lot of the stuff of what he's saying about how Celtic set up, but I don't necessarily agree with how he thinks that Tottenham will look. So that's why I want to sort of reference him, but also go in my own direction with it. I will put the link to his video into the description afterwards. So Celtic play a bit of a 4-3-3 formation with the wing backs having kind of quite unique roles. And here's where I want to start off straight away by saying, when we talked about Bayern Munich, guys, in a few months ago or a couple of months ago, and the idea of Nagelsmann coming in, we were talking about this idea of him playing more of like a 3-1-5-1 system where the left back for Bayern Munich would come up and join the 5, that the right back would sort of tuck in and be more like make a back 3. And then you'd have Kimmich playing in that 6 role that would protect. With Postecoglou, the way that he sets up his system is kind of similar to a degree, although not as extreme. With Taylor at Celtic, he definitely has the liberal freedom to get far more forward than Johnson does. Johnson still can join attacks, but his role really is more to play in that kind of defensive end. If there are situations when the transition happens and they lose the ball, it's really his job to get back and sort of protect Cameron or help Cameron Carter-Vickers and Starfelt out. McGregor, we're going to come to in a second, but Taylor can have the freedom to move inside or outside as a left back. He is left-footed, but if you actually look at the heat map for Taylor, he spends a lot of time cutting in to be able to help Jota out with the space down the left side and become more of a 5 up the top. I feel like that kind of situation could suit us next season with Destiny Udogie. I'm not entirely convinced that Pedro Porro will be able to play the role that Johnson plays. But with Taylor having, he's not a bad defender, but he definitely has the more freedom to move up the top end of the pitch. I do feel like there's some ways there that Tottenham and Celtic can kind of step in, or we can step into the way Celtic play without too much transitional problem. The key man for Celtic, though, is this guy, Callum McGregor. When Postecoglou got to Celtic, Callum McGregor was a good player anyway, but in the last 2 years, he has become the linchpin, the cornerstone, and everything goes through him. If you were to look at like the heat map of where he goes, he basically sits in this little block the entire time. But in terms of pinging passes, he absolutely could spread the ball up to Jota or down to Maeda or Abada, sorry, down the wing. He's also very, very interested in just popping the ball forward to Hatate and Matt O'Reilly. Do you guys know too much about Callum McGregor's game at all, Jack? Have you spent any time kind of looking into him?
I don't know as much about McGregor. I think you're spot on with how he was probably like, one of the mainstays in that Celtic sort of 11. But then, like you said, maybe under Postecoglou, he's sort of become an even better player because of the role that he's been given. I was going to maybe touch, I don't want to, ruin your flow, Sean, but I was going to touch on maybe the fullbacks and just sort of maybe even ask you a question, since I actually, of all the managers we've been linked with, Postecoglou is the one I'm sort of the least informed on. But from what I've heard from, various, videos and, kind of, articles and things, is that, he is supposedly, a big fan of Guardiola. And what you said about sort of the fullback sort of coming in field, I was going to sort of like kind of ask the question where it's like, maybe it's where the fullbacks come in field, because maybe if the wingers are good at being able to be dangerous in those wide areas, they can actually be more effective. Kind of like what you see with Arsenal, right? Where you have sort of Bukayo Saka and Martinelli just sort of hugging the touch lines. And the same thing with like Jack Grealish. They sort of just hug the touch line and then they just sort of wait to receive the ball. And then in those wide areas, they're actually more effective than maybe like an Emerson or somebody would be, in those wide areas. So it could be the case that he is sort of like a fan of just having, the fullbacks who are maybe lesser, talented than the wingers in those wide areas, just sort of helping out in possession and sort of overwhelming, the opposition in midfield and causing, overloads and causing, you to sort of kind of dominate the midfield. We had it with, Man City, where it felt like they had 10 people, in the midfield, just sort of passing it to each other. And I think that's because of like the fullbacks, like you said, with Taylor and whatnot.
Yeah, 100%. So I think that from what I've looked into it, like Taylor has the more freedom to move forward. I'm not sure if it's out of choice that they just go down the left-hand side or out of force, because Johnson just doesn't have that kind of forward momentum, that ability to get forward like Taylor does. Taylor, if you look on the heat map, he does like to cut inside. He is two-footed. Even though he's predominantly left-footed, he can use can work on the inside. Jota is an inside forward who does like to come in the inversion as well. He's right-footed, so he obviously pops in this side through here. And Maeda and Abada do exactly the same thing, whichever one of those two your Postecoglou's worked with. These guys aren't going to the baseline. They're not going down the line here. They're always looking to cut in. And so you do have situations where if Jota is going to be trying to join the attack, then Taylor can kind of make that front five. Matt O'Reilly is someone that is given far more room. In this midfield three, you have very specific roles that look entirely different. McGregor just sits back in the quarterback role and is the guy who's responsible for pinging the ball around, and obviously can defend as well. Like I say, Postecoglou has developed him into a fantastic player, an all-round player.
Like their Rodri, would you say?
He's like the Rodri, and I think when we come to looking at Tottenham, this is the conversation where I want to get your opinion around. I'm not sure whether a fully fit Bentancur is the natural number 6. He probably is with his ability on the ball, but I'm not entirely sure. In a situation, right, where you've got Matt O'Reilly joining the line as well, and you basically have this 5 going forward. Hatate is someone that I think he's got 12 assists this season, or 10 assists and like 6 goals. He is someone that's not given. He's played more in the hole, right? So it's a single pivot here from McGregor, and these guys are playing in the half space, with Hatate kind of hanging back, looking for, if the ball does get knocked out, looking to pick up the ball and then maybe pass the ball in, pass the ball back out wide, recycle the ball, and then get the momentum moving again. But he sort of sits back a little bit, whereas O'Reilly is given the license to get right up and support Kyogo, support Maeda or Abada or Jota or Taylor in that movement. The problem for me is when this gets when the transition happens and they lose the ball, You really only have 4 players here that are sat back. And if you are getting ran at, do you really want, is Bentancur, this is the question for me, is Bentancur, he's the best on the ball, the best one that can deliver the ball, that can start the moves. If we bring Taylor back, and if we bring O'Reilly back a little bit here, he's the one that can start the ball, ping it wherever we want. But when you do lose the ball, and of course you're going to transition and turn over the ball quite a lot, is Bentancur the best guy to have sat back in that 6? So I'm not sure. We're going to get to that in a second. We'll talk about that in just a second. Sorry, mate. Yeah. Any takes on that, guys? Any thoughts on what I've just said?
I'm just remembering more when Bentancur started playing for us. He did tend to sit more in front of the defenders, mainly because our defenders were a bit naff. But it was only when defenders stopped being quite so leaky that Bentancur started going up the field a bit. So I think Bentancur could do McGregor's role, because he was very good at nicking the ball and just being calm with it and then distributing it up the pitch. But McGregor's also, I think he's been also a great captain for Celtic, and in that role, I think I think that is a good position for a captain. Whether Bentancur's up to that or not, I don't know. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Sorry, Jack, go on. Carry, mate. Yeah.
No, I was going to say, I feel like Bentancur, when you think about it, like, he's an incredible ball carrier, but do you really see him sort of actually, like you said with McGregor, like pinging passes like 30 yards, to spread it wide to like Jota? Maybe not as much. Like, he's more just that silky ball carrier, that guy who has that nice little kind of one-touch passing to kind of just keep, sort of a bit of composure. And he's also one of the best pressers, you would say, and probably the whole team, if not the best presser of the ball in the team. So maybe you wouldn't want him sitting back in front of the defense as more to, a protector. You would rather him maybe playing as that sort of number 8 role with Hatate, I guess, where he is sort of being asked to maybe kind of get forward, but also win the ball back when he can and press forward when he can, but, maybe not be the furthest midfielder forward. And I guess even you could look at what Gundogan does, for the likes of Man City, right? He comes back, sort of wins the 100%. Ball back, but then he's also one of the guys that, leads the attacks at the same time. I feel like Bissouma, you would think, is more the guy who's probably capable of just sitting deep like that and then being able to just, spread play and just run the midfield. We've seen it like with that 4-4-2 with Mason. I mean, Skip, in my opinion, wasn't really doing a whole lot. I felt like it was just the Bissouma show, for the recent games. And I think that 100%. Showed that maybe Bissouma could do it on his own. Maybe Højbjerg and him would sort of compete for that role. I think Bissouma probably might win out. But wouldn't be bad competition, I think, between those two, honestly, at that sort of deeper role, because Højbjerg can sort of spray the passes when he does have time on the ball and he is able to turn. I feel like, Sean, I feel like Bentancur, just your original thing. I don't think he can play that deepest role. He's going to have to play a bit further forward.
And that's okay with me, because I think if you're looking at the specific roles of these three, Matt O'Reilly is definitely the guy who's asked more so than Hatate to get up and join that kind of that overload up top. And I don't know if with the current squad we're going to look at in a minute, I don't know if you're looking at the main 3 players that we have, even with a fully fit squad with Bissouma, Bentancur and Højbjerg, if you're going to play Bissouma here in the Hatate role, Bissouma in the McGregor role and Bentancur in that role that you're talking about with the Gundogan, I don't know if Matt O'Reilly and the role that he's asked to play under a Postecoglou system is best represented by the skill set that Pierre-Emile Højbjerg has, even though he's asked to do it a little bit more for Denmark. I'm not entirely sure that he fits that mold. Just one overloading sentiment that I took from this guy James's takeaways is the role of Kyogo. So even though he got 34 goals in the season in all competitions, he said that there's moments, so there's periods of the game where Kyogo can go 10 to 15 minutes without even touching the ball. Right, like he's very much all about kind of pulling players out of position and getting into kind of the half space, finding little pockets where he can then receive the ball and then play players through. And you'd think that because of the fact that he scores so many goals that he's always involved in the play, but he often isn't in terms of actually getting the ball to him in the build-up. He's more in the shoulder, or he's more in the space. And then sometimes when the ball does get whipped in from, Abada or Jota or whatever, he's there to tuck it away with some of the depth. This like typically Japanese technique that he has is absolutely superb to see. But I don't know whether Harry Kane is willing to be the player, play that role where he's drawing people out of position to allow other players to kind of to fill into the space, like the Matt O'Reillys, like the Hatates, or the Hatatis. I'm not sure how you say his name properly. You know, I wonder then whether or not maybe you could ask Harry Kane to pull back and play the number 10 role, like where Matt O'Reilly currently plays, and you're better off asking someone like Richarlison, as much as I don't particularly rate the guy, to kind of sit in the 9 role, especially when you look at the way that they set up when they don't have the ball. So I'm just going to bring a few players for the opposition here and work with like a kind of assume a back four for whoever the opposition would be. And I'm also going to offer one sort of defensive midfielder in that pivot for the opposition team. In this situation, if the ball was with the other team from a goal kick or from them getting the ball back, you would find a situation where Tottenham or Celtic would be absolutely man marking. Let me go there like that, and then this guy will be here. Excuse me. And essentially, the role here is when Tottenham under Postecoglou or Celtic under Postecoglou last season, when the other team have the ball in this situation, it's the super high press, where essentially all of the options for the goalkeeper are completely removed apart from 2. They can either pick the one centre back that's not marked, or because O'Reilly or Kyogo, whichever one it will be marking out of the game the single pivot, they can either go to the one person here, or he can go long into the midfield, and then it comes down to whether or not McGregor or Hatate or whoever wins that ball back. If they do win it back, then Tottenham will recycle the possession high up the field and can go again. If they don't, then that is obviously the problem where you're then facing the consequence of the counter attack, and it can happen incredibly quickly. And that is where Celtic have obviously conceded most of their goals, have happened in situations where the goalkeeper has gone long or cleared the ball because the press has been so effective and it hasn't landed at the feet or been won back well by the likes of McGregor or the second number 8. In a world where Celtic haven't decided to go long and they've decided to pass the ball back, then the other option for Tottenham is to literally go man marking, where O'Reilly would come in here and Hatate would then try and pick up the single pivot. And again, it creates an overload. It creates the high press, the high intensity, but it also exposes the opportunity for the goalkeeper to go long. So one of the fears that I have is if you're playing against teams where the goalkeeper has obscene distribution skills, and obviously that is such a key qualifying asset now for a lot of goalkeepers. Yeah. And in the Premier League, you're going to have goalkeepers that have that ability to a higher level generally than some of the teams that Postecoglou will have come up against in the Premier League, in the Scottish Premier League. If the goalkeeper can find the ball and get it into the space here, given Tottenham's current squad and the frailties within its defensive line, then maybe will be exposed a little bit too frequently. So we have to overcome that. What are your thoughts on that sort of side of things, guys?
We do know Ederson, Paul, right? He can just, ping one like 80 yards, like from like a standing position, like over everybody's head, like if he needs to. And there are other goalkeepers that can, like Sean saying, can just get it launched and like get it directly ping. Even Pickford, can do it, like get it directly pings to somebody from like a very large distance. So, I mean, what do you think? Like Postecoglou, though, the whole time I feel like, Paul, I feel like he's a guy that might not necessarily play the exact same formation if he doesn't feel like it's possible. If he doesn't feel like it's possible, but he does sort of change his formation from time to time, but he never changes the style of play. So I don't know.
And he also does leave it up to the players on the pitch as well. They had a bit of a scrappy game with Rangers in the League Cup final, where not that they sat back, but they relied more on their defending to contain and win the game. And so I think if you do start seeing long balls, I think the players will sort it out on the pitch. But also the keeper's going to be under a lot of pressure. So sure, they might be able to ping a long one out, but also, one game out of 5, they'll just scuff it, and Richarlison might be there to pounce.
Sean, are you worried about like an Ederson or like a Pickford? Is kind of what you're maybe kind of pointing out, is like he never comes up against guys like that usually in the Scottish League, guys that could just, pick out a 30-yard pass, but they can also pick out like a 70-yard pass if they need to, right?
Yeah, that to me is the concern. Obviously, everyone's leveling up here, right? So you can make the argument that Postecoglou hasn't played at this level, but he's never, like you said at the start, Jack, he hasn't managed players of this higher level as well. So everything's leveling up at the same time. But ultimately, look, you know, the way that he's playing football, the way that he sets his teams up is very reminiscent of the way that Manchester City play. He likes to do the high press, the high intensity stuff. But, you know, if we are going to affect that and impact that press when we don't have the ball very well, the goalkeepers that do have the ability to go long, there's going to be space. If you've got half of your team all pressing on the back line here and giving the goalkeeper no real room to do anything else other than go long, then you've got 2/3 of the pitch that's going to be occupied by just 4 or 5 Tottenham players. So that to me is a concern, and one why I think that the transfer market work that we have to do this summer, if you look at the squad that I put together here, this is obviously just using the current squad. We're going to go through that in a minute and then think about what we need. But, you know, for me, at the moment, right, I mean, I don't even think Romero is best with wonderful pace. But Dyer and or Longley / whoever, Sanchez, whoever you want to put in there with the current squad, you know, none of them have infused any confidence in me.
They're not fast enough. They can't get back quick enough, you know, because a lot of the time they're going to be quite high up the pitch. And to get back in time, not a chance. We need Romero probably has got the speed, but definitely Dyer and Longley don't. No way.
I think the speed thing is important, Sean, but at the same time, like, we also need to make sure that the center back that we bring in can actually track the ball when, you know, actually pinged into the air, because we've seen the likes of Sanchez and Dyer. How many times do we watch them just like watch the ball just go right over their head, almost gives them like a haircut, right? And they don't do anything about it. And even also Sanchez was always blessed with pace, but his reaction time to anything is just 4 seconds, 5 seconds too late. So it just doesn't really matter if he's, you know, has that sort of recovery pace. And I agree with you, right? We need a guy that can actually be able to, be able to recover in case anything, you know, like tracking like a Marcus Rashford, you know, tracking, you know, like a Martinelli, or, you know, guys that, you know, are blessed with, you know, blistering pace, and you need somebody that can keep up with them. But at the same time, it's like Sanchez probably can keep up with most of these guys, but like he can't even track, you know, anything to save his life. So it's that sort of thing too.
Oh, Sean has
Sorry, guys. I dropped out for a second there. I'm back.
Oh, he's back.
There he is.
Sorry about that. Was my internet going the whole time? Was it always crackly, or was it okay?
No. I think it was just
that one break
for a sec.
Yeah. Okay.
I was just roasting Sanchez for a bit and saying that, you know, basically, you know, we need to get a guy that has similar pace to like a Sanchez, but who can actually defend and actually be able to recover and track the runs. That's all I was trying to say.
Yeah, 100% right. So for me, I look at that, and we're going to pivot to the tier ranker in a second. But the overall takeaways of what we need, if we want to replicate what Celtic have at the moment, then you have to bear in mind that the person who plays the number 9 role is almost like a sacrificial lamb, right? Like they might go unnoticed to the untrained eye under what their role is to do. They are there more to pull players out of position, to do the high intensity press, to work so much for the team without that much reward. In the case of Kyogo, he runs and runs and runs and presses for days. He has obviously scored a bag full of goals because of his technical ability, and his finishing is sublime. But the responsibilities of him are not necessarily to be the creator in chief from the build-up play. That sort of sits more firmly on the person who plays in the number 6 role to start the movement, and the person who plays in the number 8, Mateti, to sit back Hateti to sit back and kind of gather things up, with the guy who sits in the 10, the guy who's joining the game late on, or the move late on, to try and participate in the overload. For me, I don't know whether Harry Kane is going to want to be asked to play a position, and rumors that, you know, the Real Madrid are willing to pay 125, 150 million quid, whatever it is. I'm curious to know whether you guys think that maybe there's more logic to letting him leave, given that maybe there's not that much money available this summer, absent some like hefty transfer fee that comes in for someone like Harry Kane. And given the amount of players that we're going to need to sign, we are going to need someone who can play sweeper keeper. Fraser Foster isn't it. Hugo Lloris is definitely going. We are going to need at least 2 centre-backs to be able to, support Romero, that has pace, that has, ambition, that is a leader, that can pass the ball, everything. I'm not even entirely sure whether or not the 6 and the 8 is appropriately sort of demonstrated within what we currently have. I don't know if we're going to play Pedro Porro as more of a right midfielder, a right winger, and interchange him with Decky, then do we need someone else who can come in and play and help Emerson out? Or is Jed Spence going to be the guy? For me personally, I think that the amount of money we're going to need and the amount of tweaking that we're going to be doing to the squad is going to require a substantial budget. And I wonder whether or not maybe it makes more sense to let Harry Kane go for that fee and then give Ange what he needs to go and rebuild the squad for the next 3 or 4 years. What are your thoughts?
I think it depends on Harry's head. This is what Ange does. He has a chat with the players to find out the motivations of why they want to be at Tottenham. And if Harry's head is being turned a bit and he maybe isn't fully committed, I think he'll go. But if he wants to give it a bash for another year or look at his options in a year's time, then he'll be in. So, he is a great player, and I think he could do that number 10 role. There's been times where I've seen him do stuff in that position, and like through squinted eyes, I'd be thinking, bloody hell, Glenn, that was like a Glenn Hoddle pass, that one. So he can do it, but it's kind of, does he want to be here? That's it.
I don't feel like any manager. I don't think any manager in their first season in the Premier League would, say no to Harry Kane or want to get rid of a Harry Kane. I think that's when you already have 7 or 8 positions that you need to fill anyways, like in the team. If you end up selling Harry Kane in that same season where you already need 7 or 8 guys, you're almost turning it into like a Chelsea or Nottingham Forest, type, transfer window where you're bringing in 10 or 11 players like in one summer for Ange. And I don't really know if I want that because we've seen how that's worked out, for the likes of Steve Cooper. We saw how it worked out for the likes of the Chelsea managers. It was just too much turnover. It was too much, kind of big heads and sort of big figures leaving the dressing room kind of at once. And also players that a lot of people sort of depend on, like in a lot of different ways, either just in the sense of Harry Kane. He's the guy that digs them out of games. He's the guy that can either drop deep to be able to pick up the ball and just sort of link up the play when we're sort of stuck and just sort of passing it amongst ourselves, going nowhere. Or he's the guy that sort of just finds himself at the right place at the right time to be able to bury that one chance that we create like in the entire game, and so to be able to, I feel like, Sean, if we were in a perfect position with Ange where we had center backs, had the fullbacks that we needed, maybe the midfield as well that we were satisfied with, you could maybe logically think about, is Harry Kane, if his head, like Paul is saying, is turned elsewhere, maybe you do think about, getting rid of him. But when you already, I think, need to bring in 7 or 8 guys as it is, like, I feel like you're already creating even more problems for yourself by selling Harry Kane. Then you have to bring in 10 or 11. And then the other thing, too, is just quickly is even if Harry Kane were to go on a free next season, I feel like Ange Postecoglou wouldn't even mind sort of settling into the Premier League, at least for one season, having a Harry Kane at his disposal as sort of a superpower, having a Sonny at his disposal as sort of a superpower, to be able to at least, settle in for a little bit and be able to at least get, his sort of grips on, the other managers, on how sort of the pace of the league works. And the fact that those guys can do anything on their own, I think he'll be happy with that sort of thing. And I understand for the tactical reasons, it's like a valid question to like bring up what you're saying with like Kyogo and stuff. But I feel like for at least one season, he'll probably just want to keep those kind of like superstar players. I mean, also even part of the interview process, I think if you said in the interview process, I'd like to get rid of Kane and Son and, my first season, I think that would, probably, get you rejected, I think, in the interview process.
Yeah.
But maybe the following season could be different. He'd be like, all right, now that I've settled in, I want this team to look a bit more like my own, right? And then he might, think about getting rid of them. But I feel like first season, no.
It's a lot of goals to sacrifice in your first season, really, isn't it? Because, I mean, obviously some other player will pick up some of the slack, but, 30 goals, especially if he's mucking around getting the defense. I think he'll get the defense sorted out first and then move up later. So Harry Kane for another year would be a good thing to have.
Even if it means him running his contract down and then leaving for free.
That's football sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah. The way I see it, I'd rather spend 100 million right now. We already spent 150 million last summer, so let's not even say we're going to spend 150 million this summer, but I'd rather spend 100 million now on a goalkeeper, center backs, and other positions that we may need than spend another 100 million next summer on trying to replace Harry Kane. Like, I don't feel like we need to spend 100 million now on the center backs, the goalkeeper. We already need to spend like close to 100 million, as is on those positions. To then just sell Harry Kane now is like, all right, then we need to get a striker, get a creative midfielder, get wingers and all these things. It's just sort of, I'd rather chop it in half, if you know what I mean, Sean, like delay that problem and just have Levy spend 100 million to solve his own problem, the following summer. I think he's probably willing to do that by the looks of things. Like, I think he's maybe recognized that he might just have to, settle with, getting rid of or, solving the Harry Kane problem next summer. I think he's willing to do that.
It's going to be fascinating. It's definitely going to be fascinating. Yeah, I don't know what the best course of action is. I hope that Harry Kane would, first and foremost, be willing to pivot, like move back into that kind of O'Reilly role, and then allow someone else to do the donkey work. Because what I don't want to happen is this system to be implemented as best as it can, the way Post wants it to be implemented, and then see Harry Kane essentially play almost like a bit part in the creativity. I don't want to see a system where everything goes through Harry Kane like it has done for the last 3 or 4 years. I want everyone else in the team to feel like they're part of the system and be a little bit less predictable, but if Postecoglou's system is to be replicated in the same way, then someone has to be the sacrificial lamb in that number 9 spot. And for me, as much as I also bite your hand off if someone came in and bid 40 million quid for Richarlison, he probably makes the most sense in willing to do that long running, that kind of chasing down, lost causes and blind alleys and things. And
selfless runs like you were describing.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, look, what we're going to do now, we're going to pivot to the tier anchor to see how you guys feel like everyone could fit in. You guys understand? Did I do an okay job at sort of explaining how Postecoglou's each of the different roles in that particular, and whether or not the players can fit that?
Can I throw one little on board with it? Can I throw one little thing into the mixer, Sean, with maybe Emerson and Spence? I feel like Emporo. I feel like how Ange has those sort of, the fact that maybe some of his fullbacks sort of tuck into midfield and just sort of help, fill in, in that area and sort of overwhelm the midfield. You could have sort of theoretically like a Jed Spence, play that role if you needed him to, because he's very good at cutting inside, and he's very pacey as well, being able to take it past players. And you sort of feel like in those wide areas, I don't know if he actually does have like a great cross on him, but if he was just sort of tucking inside, just to sort of play little 1-2s, maybe take it past a guy if he needed to, and then have sort of like you were talking about that recovery pace if need be to track back and, try to, track a winger if need be.
He's kind of like
an Emerson does really well. Emerson and Spence, I feel like, could both play that infield sort of role, if you know what I mean. I think Emerson and Spence. Yeah. And then Poro can play out wide and just whip it in.
Yeah. Sorry, Paul.
No, I was just saying. I think Jack's on the money there because, when the fullback inverts and comes inside to create an overload on the other side, I think either Emerson or Spence might be able to have a crack at that. I mean, you're not asking Emerson to go all the way up the pitch. You're asking to come into the midfield a bit more, and maybe he's more comfortable doing that.
Yeah. Well, that is actually. So let me go back to this. Let me get this up for a second. Let me pivot back to the tactics board. So obviously under the system with Celtic, they because of the styles of the players they have in the fullback role, they asked their guy on the left hand side to be the one who makes those runs and cuts inside and allows Sonny, or the Sonny equivalent Jota to kind of have a little bit more space as well. They don't ask the same thing of the right. But what we could see, and this is back to the point I was making around how I was thinking about Nagelsmann, if he came in with the Bayern Munich system, similar style, you could play Ben Davies and you could put Pedro Porro in here. So if you didn't want to play Udogie, depending on who you were playing against and the quality of the opposition, whether their right hand or their left hand side had certain strengths or weaknesses to attack, you could play Pedro Porro down here in the 5 role and ask him to do that. and ask him to do the cut in and play the inversion, and then take Udogie out of the team and play a Ben Davies or someone else who could play more as just that kind of sit back and help out the back three, Romero, whoever the new centre back is on the left-hand side, and make that kind of three look more stable that way, as long as whoever the 6 is can sit in and protect. And to your point, Jack, I'm not sure if maybe it would look better until we know whether Bentancur is fully fit again, at least to see Bissouma play more in that kind of 6 role and let Bentancur be the guy who sits more in the 8. What are your thoughts?
I feel like the midfield is going to be a confusing one, like you said, with the Bentancur injury, because I keep forgetting that when I talk about Bentancur. I feel like he's going to be, just fit on the first day, but he's not. What is it? It's like nearly October, November is like when he's going to be back, or like something like that. It's not, or he could be back sooner, but it's not going to be easy, that's for sure. And in the beginning, I just feel like on Pedro Porro, though, Sean, I think he's just proven to be more than a winger than he really is a defender at all. But when you look at sort of his goals and assists output in the games that he's been in here, I think he's proven he kind of can play as sort of a right winger. And be interesting if Postecoglou might look at sort of his crossing ability, look at sort of his, shot. He has a good shot on goal. Clearly he can finish, when given the chance. Might actually consider, Pedro Porro as maybe not like a left-footed right winger, but a guy that can sort of whip it in, from those wide areas on the right, or kind of cut inside and try to have a shot on goal. Because some of the finishes he's had are some of the finishes of the season, to be fair.
Yeah, 100%, mate. Couldn't agree more. All right, guys, we're going to move into the thing now. Just quickly, there's nearly 550 of you in the house. It's amazing numbers. Thank you so much for stopping by the channel. If you haven't already, please subscribe button, hit as well. I think we've only got 100 and something likes. We've got 120 likes, guys. And there's 550 of you. If half of you hit the like button, it would be really helpful. Also, please get over to the Irish Hotspur as well. I'll put the link up into the comments in a second when I can get it up. That's what he said. And before I move on, Aaron J has become a new channel member. Thank you so much, Aaron. I really appreciate your support, buddy. Not sure if you're a puppy or a pony, but I really appreciate the support on the channel and look forward to seeing you around these here parts more often. Okay, so what we're going to do now, based on what we know, based on the squad, based on the tactics that Postecoglou wants to infect us with, we're going to go through the 25-man squad. I believe all of these players are in here. I've used someone else's tier maker, and I'm just going to assume that they're all here. And we're going to go through and figure out whether or not these are people that will be a key player in the system. They should be in the first team, a squad player, either loan them out or get rid of the people altogether. Let's start with Richarlison. What sort of role do you think Richarlison's going to play in a Postecoglou system? I'll start with you, Paul.
I think pretty much as you said, he's the number 9. I mean, he's maybe to give him a bit of benefit of the doubt. I haven't really seen him playing that position much this year, or rather playing that position when the rest of the team gave a shit about winning. So I don't know about first team though. First team or squad, I'd go for, but I wouldn't be loaning him out. I'd be keeping him hanging around.
Yeah, fair enough. Jack, do you see him as a first team regular in the Postecoglou system?
He's an expensive one, John. We nearly spent as much as we did on him as we did with Ndombele. So I think we're just going to have to give him, unless Levy is willing to, pay for that mistake and just get rid of him. And like you said, take 40 million or something and just sort of end the pain. But I think he is probably going to try to give him, or force the manager, to give him another chance and try to see if he can get him into his plans. He can make those selfless runs like you were talking about, and be able to be, that team player with how he can just, press the opposition and be able to just be a nuisance, for the back line. But we've all said, like, can he really actually score 18 goals, 20 goals like in a Premier League season? That's kind of up for debate, with Richarlison.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Let us know in the comments, guys, what your thoughts are on each one of these players. We've got Ball Bean Counter saying Richie will come alive under Ange. Jazzy saying a squad player. Sam is saying first team. Tottenham LSG is saying he's a keeper for the forward. Red Hill doesn't think he's a player at all. Scott M, what's happening? Scott, he says Richarlison sucks, but he might fit because he's at Ange's level.
Shirt swapper.
Hopefully Ange will set some standards of how players should perform after a match.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. Yeah, I'm going to put Lucas Moura into the this set. He's obviously leaving. Who's next up on this? Is that Stan Juma, I believe? Put him in there as well. I don't think he's staying. Let's talk about Heung-min Son. Rumors today that Saudi Arabia are thinking about making him their next target for big money. I think the rumors from the I don't know tier were saying that it was for 2024. But for this season, are we putting him as a key player into the system?
Yep, for sure.
Definitely.
Any
Same logic,
there?
I think, with I had with Kane. Same logic I had with Kane. At least give Ange one season with Son and Kane. At least give him one season with those two.
100%. 100%.
The press don't half right, those old bollocks, don't they? I mean, this was supposed to be a 2-year deal plus 1-year option for Ange, and they got that wrong. So I don't pay any attention to the rumours about Sonny at all.
Yeah, same here. Who is this one? Who's not sure who that is? I can't even see his face. Is that Harry Wicks? Who's number? Who was wearing 21?
Oh, Kulu.
That's supposed to be. Kulu. Oh, that's Kulu. Oh, of course it is. Yeah. Where are we putting Kulu in this system? Are we definitely taking up the option on him? And
I think they already have. Haven't they? Isn't it like 30 million paid over 5 years or something?
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Do we see him playing off the right hand side? A guaranteed first teamer?
Not sure. I think it's between him and Pedro Porro. And I think I would probably be more inclined, based on just this season or, towards the end of the season form. I think Porro in that position looked a bit better than Kulu, but yeah, I don't know.
Drop him into the squad, put him in the squad team.
Yeah, probably he has to have a big comeback, and it's just up to him whether he wants to try to make a name for himself or just, make roads for that number 10 position through the middle and sort of Postecoglou's system, or to play maybe as, like a Jota or, the Maeda role or whatever it was, sort of outside that you were talking about, Sean, or on the wing. I mean,
yeah.
It's up to him to make that decision, I guess, or whether Postecoglou thinks he's best for one of those.
I think, with the fact that they ask these inside forwards to always invert, to come inside on their stronger foot, I think it should suit Kulu, and I think it should absolutely suit Sonny as well. As long as whoever they play in the 9 and whoever they play in the Matt O'Reilly role do those jobs effectively, then I think that, on the right-hand side, Decky or Porro, take your point, Paul, that Porro probably looked sharper in that role in the last games of the season. So, we'll put Decky in the squad position then for now. What about let's move to Ollie Skip. What do we thought? What are you thinking about Ollie Skip?
I think get rid of him. I can't see him being good enough or fitting into this in any way. So I would be getting rid of him.
I think he's going to struggle, Sean. I think he might struggle, and he's going to probably want to play that deeper role, right? And does he really have the technical skill to really spray the passes and play that role that you were talking about with McGregor? I don't think so. Can he actually play further up the pitch and, contribute in the final thirds? Definitely not. I feel like he's got to go on loan. I think he's going to struggle, actually, in this Postecoglou team. I think probably mentality-wise, Postecoglou might love him, but where does he actually fit, in the 11, and what can he actually contribute, better than others? I'm not sure. So I think you loan him.
Yeah. This is the problem for me. And I know that you guys on the Irish Hotspur completely always talk about this. He's terrible on the ball, right? As an on the ball footballer, he's good off the ball, good defensively, but on the ball he can't pass. When he does get up the pitch, he looks like he gets altitude sickness. And under a Postecoglou system where it's high possession, high retention, and he's either going to have to play in the 6 role, but then I don't think he can pass the ball with enough confidence, and to play in the 8 or the 10. I don't think he is anywhere near competent enough. So for me, it's either a loan or it's a sell.
People are saying homegrown, though, reasons. People are saying, he might just be in the squad no matter what, homegrown reasons, and being kind of young and everything.
Yeah.
I think he's best for his career. The best thing for him is to go on loan, for him to actually try to develop some of these skills that we were saying he doesn't have.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we'll put him in the loan then. Talking about loanees and homegrown players, how about Japhet Tanganga? What are we thinking there in the chat as well, guys? Let us know. Japhet Tanganga, is he going to be a player that Postecoglou has any time for? Jack, I'll start with you.
Poor guy's been used as a pawn in the homegrown scheme for a very long time. I feel kind of bad for him. I feel like he still maybe has the chance to become a good defender, but I feel like we've just delayed his progression, a lot, with just the turnover in managers, and also just the fact that we have used him as a homegrown guy for, in a lot of different ways just to meet, sort of those squad demands. And I feel like he needs to go on loan too for his own development. I think when he has come in this season, he's proven to be either a little bit better than a Sanchez, but really no better than an Eric Dyer or Ben Davies or anything. And those are the guys that we also feel like need to go. So I feel like he's got to go on loan. Maybe sell, but I like Japhet Tanganga, and I like her. I'm a bit probably biased towards our younger kids, but yeah, probably loan.
Yep. Paul?
Yeah, I'd go along with that. He's crap. I'm sorry, but he's just,
Yeah, I think he's rubbish as well. I liked him when he first played. But I don't think he hasn't progressed. Not that he's had the opportunity to, but it's going to be interesting though. I feel like we're going to end up with more than 8 players on loan in this, because I'm just looking through it, and unless we're going to sell, we have to make some difficult decisions. Let's move to.
By the way, sure, I don't know if you got my message. Danny Kiriakos sent you a message. He was.
Oh, did he?
After coming on, I think.
Do you want the link? Okay. Yeah, I'll put him on. Hang on a second. 1 second, Danny. Gosh. There you go, Danny. Let's move up to Joe Roden.
What
are we thinking?
The center back that Steve Hitchen managed to find that was even worse than Eric Dyer and all the rest of them. I think he's got to be
into the bin.
He's got to be a sell, isn't he?
He's got to
be into the bin. 100% into the bin. All right, no need to discuss that one. How about let's talk about Harry Kane? Should we just immediately put him into key player? Unless yeah. Okay.
Unless you want a 2-hour debate.
Yeah, exactly. We'll put him, but we can come back to it if we need to. Emerson Royale. What are we thinking with Emerson Royale?
Where's the Save Emerson tab? I think he's just going to be I'm not going to just be cocky enough and say that he's just going to slide immediately into the first team. He's going to have to prove himself probably under a different manager, prove that he can either play that role, like you said, where he comes into the midfield or be maybe more of a defensive sort of kind of key player. But, I'm not going to say that he immediately has some sort of spot like in the system. So I would say squad, at least he's probably going to be in the squad and see if he maybe works his way into the first team. Again, probably will be in the first team, but I'm not going to just, immediately say that he's just gets in there immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd go first team or squad. Cool. I think. I mean, he probably does need maybe an upgrade, but maybe not yet. I think we've got bigger fish to fry before we sort out right back.
It's interesting. So I'd definitely call him the first team because I think that if we're going to play Destiny Udogie and give him the license to go forward, and we're putting Pedro Porro as a right mid, like a Kulu substitute, whatever. I'd almost go as far as to say that maybe Emerson Royale might end up being a key player to be able to help the defense out and to tuck in as that third man. But I think I'd get views in the comments if I was to put him as a key player. So
you've been talking Barry too much.
If Nick and Barry was in here.
Yeah,
I know, 100%.
Oh, this is great.
All right, then we'll keep him in. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments, guys. By the way, there's nearly 600 of you here now. It's amazing. If you haven't hit the like button, please do hit the subscribe. Also, jump onto the Irish Hotspur as well and subscribe there. I'm going to get that link up because I keep saying I'm going to get it. Let me get it. 1 second. I'll hand over to Jack to tell me about Pape Matar Sarr. How does he fit into this system?
I feel like Papa Matasar should have been given more chances. I'm not sure why that, wasn't the case. I feel like he has a few different positions he could probably play in this team where you probably saw that, Hatate number 8 role probably makes the most sense, where he could be sort of maybe a backup to a Bentancur, or maybe he can even, I don't know, this is crazy, maybe a bit too soon for him, but maybe he could try to, make a name for himself playing in that sort of, role that Hatate was, where he's, asked to do a bit defensively, but also go further forward. We know with Papa Matasar, if he sees any opportunity to shoot from 40 yards, he'll do it. And also he'll spray past 40 yards if he needs to as well. I like him. I think he's obviously very talented, but I mean, how many minutes is he really going to get though when we don't have European football and things like that? It's going to be an interesting one. I feel like he could get a spot in the squad. I think he has more of a future than Ollie Skip does in this system, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. I think he has obviously a much higher ceiling, and he has much greater technical skill than Ollie Skip does. And the fact that Postecoglou is so key on keeping possession and sort of, dominating the team with possession, I think Papa Matasar is obviously a better guy for that sort of thing. Not saying, though, he's going to play all that much, but I'd say squad, personally.
Yeah, I'd go along with that, although I would like to see more of him. I'd like to see more of him in the first team. I think he's been underused, and I think he's got a crisp couple of feet on him. So I think he could end up in the first team quite easily, but I suppose squad for now.
I think, I agree. I think a squad player is where I'd put him. Although I imagine, I don't think what we've seen of him right now is enough for me to think that he naturally fits into any of these positions that Postecoglou wants to play. But what I would say is that I think that Postecoglou will take someone like him and will work with him and turn him into something else. I think the guy's got bags of potential, bags of talent, and however Postecoglou sees this guy, I think you'll see a massive amount of development going into Pape Sarr from Postecoglou. Hi, Danny. How you doing, my man?
I'm good. I was trying to say,
Danny.
Aussie. Coins.
Your mic's very quiet, mate. Can you turn your mic up a little bit?
Yeah, let me change it in the settings. Hold on a sec. Is that a bit better?
Yeah, that's better, mate.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm doing good. I hope you guys are well. Finally got a manager.
Yeah, good, mate.
Very happy.
Throwing some players into the bin right now. Come and join us.
Yeah.
I was
intrigued.
We haven't thrown that many though.
Definitely.
We haven't thrown that many in I was expecting to see a lot more in the bin so far than we've gone through. Maybe they're coming up.
It's distributed kind of evenly for right now. Yeah.
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 You're talking about Sarr just a second ago. I think what you're saying, I think is quite spot on. I think, well, from my opinion, with Sarr, I actually think that he's going to be third choice midfielder in our club. I mean, it depends on who we bring in, because they might try bring in maybe a midfielder that Hatate from Celtic. He's a great player. They might bring in, who knows, another central attacking midfielder. But for that central midfield role, and I think for his ball retention, his energy, his work rate, I think that's kind of exactly what Postecoglou is probably looking for. And I think you're right. I think he's going to be a player you're going to see play a lot more next season if he's still at the club in the summer. I definitely feel he's exactly the type of player that Postecoglou likes.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah. Sorry, Paul, you go.
No, I'm just agreeing with Danny. I think he is. He's because he's a mover. He's an engine. He's got a pair of legs on him, and Ange likes that sort of player.
Yeah, definitely.
You look at like the one-touch passing and stuff that also like Ange's team does, like where they move the ball like really quickly, and it's like I was saying earlier with like even potentially even a Højbjerg, you would say this might not adapt to this quite well. But
100%.
Skip and Højbjerg might struggle moving the ball quickly. Whereas a Papa Matasar, we saw him even against AC Milan, just sort of running the show, one-touch passing, just kind of getting the ball moving and sort of like, it's not like Ange is going to throw him straight into the first team because he can do that, but he'll probably see him as like a guy that's like, quite useful, for just throwing on, when need be, or probably when you're 2-0 up or something like that. Just, throw him on, save somebody else's legs.
Yeah, I think you're right about what you said about Skip and Højbjerg as well. I'm not sure if they will I don't think they're the type of player that he likes. In terms of the type of player, when I say that they're not really the greatest with ball possession and that kind of stuff. If you look at some of our players in the squad, they actually probably are even better suited to a 1-2 touch type of football, playing a fast type of football, moving, pass and move, pass and move, pass and move type of football. And I think some of our players like Sarr and Bentancur, I think Basuma will fit amazingly in that system for sure. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do.
Let's talk about Basuma. Let's talk about Basuma right now. So we're putting Papa in the squad. Like I say, I personally think that I don't know what role he's going to play as the player that we currently see, but I think that Postecoglou will look at him and think he's my guy and develop him into something that we haven't seen yet. Basuma, for me, is a clear first teamer at the moment, especially given Bentancur's long-term injury. I don't know if I'd go as far to say a key player, but does anyone disagree with first teamer for Basuma?
I mean, I would say key player, and the reason I say that is because what I've seen of Basuma since Conte's gone, he's come back from his injury. He's come back fresher. He just looks like the shackles have been taken off him a bit, and he just looks like he's kind of been given that free type of, like, just go and play your football. And if you know Ange, or if you studied him or you understand him, that's the exact epitome of what he wants. He wants someone to go out there and just enjoy playing their football. And I think, considering the midfielders we've got, you've got to remember, Bentancur, he's going to be injured until probably November, December. We might be lucky and see him before. But if you look at who we've currently got in our squad, I think it's a no-brainer he's going to be a key player, in my opinion. I can't see who gets ahead of Basuma right now in Ange's type of system.
And you know what, Danny, like in Ange's system, McGregor, the key player, right? He's not the star player necessarily, but he's the key player. Everything goes through him. And unless we go and buy someone else, until Bentancur's back, he's going to have to pick either Basuma or Sarr or Højbjerg to play in that sixth role. And you're right, he might end up being a key player. I think he could be a key player.
Just to argue the point, not argue it, but kind of just like add to it. If we're looking at currently who we've got to pick from, I think you've got to say he's got to be a key player, because it's in retrospect that we can all sit here and say that we might get another player to come in, which then again this whole list will change, because we might bring in better players or players to suit Postecoglou more. But based on what we currently have right now from this list you've got, but I think Basuma is definitely a key player. That's only.
Go on, then. You've twisted my arm. Yeah, I think it makes sense. It's nice. It's nice. It's actually nice for once. For once in doing a tier maker, usually it's like keep, loan, sell. Yeah. 3 in the keep and like 45 in the sell. It's nice to actually have the key player role there a little bit bulked out at the moment. All right, listen, I'm going to go for a little crazy one here. Let's go for Bryan Gil. I personally think that Bryan Gil is going to be like, you're looking for someone who plays up front, who's going to run for days and do the press and do the pressure and be creative.
Technically gifted.
I actually he's technically gifted. Like if Tottenham have a Kyogo, it's probably Bryan Gil, not just in stature, but also in the kind of way that he looks, and he obviously doesn't have the finishing that Kyogo does. I think that Bryan Gil will be I'm never going to say a key player, but I do think if he comes back from loan, I do think that he is going to be a very important player. What are your guys' thoughts? I'll start with you, Paul, on this one.
I think I would prefer if we had Kyogo, though. I think he's just a bit more clinical. I'm not convinced by Bryan Gil still. I just haven't seen him. I get what you're saying. He runs around and he looks kind of good, but what's the word I'm looking for? The effectiveness is kind of missing a little bit for me. But it's not a battle. I'm not going to die on a hill for it. So if you want to stick him in the squad or first team, I'm all right with that.
I think with Gil, like, he looks like he's been really enjoying his time in Sevilla. And if Sevilla, after winning a Europa League, I'm not sure how much coin you get out of that, but if they're probably able to pay whatever we paid for, right, the 25 million plus Lamella, if they probably threw, what is it, maybe 30 million at us, to get Brian Hill, I actually think Spurs would probably take it, and I think Brian Hill would probably take it. It looks like Brian Hill, for the most part, has just kind of just maybe come in at the wrong time and has just sort of never really been able to get, I think, the proper chance that he deserved. But it's just up to him whether he really wants to play for Spurs. And by the looks of things, he looks like he's really enjoying his time in Sevilla. So if his head is sort of turned and his head is sort of like elsewhere, where he wants to be elsewhere, I imagine Ange Postecoglou might be able to see through that. So I'm a little worried about that. Maybe unless Brian Hill is like ready to really try to make, his, spot in the squad, he might, say to Ange, if you can, I'd like to be sold to Sevilla.
Well, if we sell him, does that mean we've got to give them another $25 million and another player? Or...
Trade the Europa League trophy for Brian Hill.
Them are the rules.
Do with Hill, I think with a lot of the players, it is kind of like a clean slate for them, because it's up to them now to prove if they want to kind of stay at this club and play in the system and the way that Postecoglou wants them to play. Obviously, we know there's a lot of players in that squad that cannot play that way, and we know that eventually they're going to go and they're going to be sold or whatever from this club. They're going to be gone. With Hill, I agree completely what Jack said about.
You're saying his head has turned. His head.
Yeah, I think for me, it's up to Brian Hill and for Postecoglou to sit down, have that conversation, and then he can put out his ideas. And then if Brian Hill likes what he says, I think Brian Hill will likely to try and give it one more shot at Spurs. Because let's be honest, I just don't see Sevilla paying 25 million, 30 million euros to buy him. The only way I could see it happening again is if we loan him out to them again, and then he takes up one of the loan
Which position?
The loan spaces. I think he could play.
Where does he sit? Where does he sit? Does he sit? Well, he doesn't sit in the 9 role, does he? He's not gonna, just because he looks like Diogo doesn't mean he's going to be that role. So
where does he
fit?
He's not a striker. For me, it would be as the traditional left winger. Right, because if you look at the way Ange plays football, right, he likes to go down the wings a lot. He likes to keep his systems wide, right? Similar to how City is, and he obviously has the midfielders and the wing backs like to crossing in from the edge of the box, but he also likes them to drive into the kind of, you see where Son is, Sean, on your map. If you go forward, right, those are the kind of areas Postecoglou wants his players to kind of whip the ball into the box. And I think the way Brian Hill is, I think in those kind of areas, I think Brian Hill is like a traditional left winger kind of. He's more of an old school left winger, a bit like how Porro kind of like an old school right winger sort of thing. I kind of think that if he wants to stay, I think he will be a squad player, and for him to prove his worth, that maybe there's still a career for him at Spurs. But like Jack said, if the player has that conversation with the manager, he's like, no, I don't want to be here anymore, then we know Spurs will either sell him or they'll loan him out again. But I do think that he can have some kind of let's just say value in this squad, right? And I think if anyone's going to be able to get it out of him, it's going to be someone like Ange. And I would like to see him given a chance in the squad, because I think he's still got something that we've seen from him. Maybe not enough, but like Paul said, but he's got something that I think someone like Ange would put his arm around him, treat like a father figure, and give him the confidence in himself that he can be part of this team.
Yeah, I like that.
All right. Okay. So on that basis, look, I want to keep him. How do I go back to my?
We all want to keep him. But...
Your show, Sean.
Yeah.
What do you think, Sean?
Thank you. I don't know. Like, I think that what you're saying makes sense, right? You play him on the left, but then he's rotating with Sonny, and then what we've known ever since Sonny's been here and become the leader and the champion player that he is that he doesn't really get dropped unless he's having an absolute stinker. I personally don't see Sonny having a stinker season next season. I think he's going to be under this system. I think he's going to thrive and flourish again. So is Brian Hill going to want to, after just having one Europa League, let me get rid of that so I can see your face, Danny. I don't know if Brian Hill's going to want to come back and be on the bench again. And if he's only going to come in to play in front of Sonny occasionally, I don't know if that works. So
I see what you're saying. I
want him to stay, but I don't like, to Jack's point, I don't know if he's going to be happy to be a squad player. He's just won the Europa League. You know, he wants to keep on with his career. So
I think you're right in that respect. I think it's up to him whether he believes in himself that he can still have an impact at Spurs if given the chance. And if Ange says to him, "Look, I want to give you the chance, right? Because I like your ability. I like what you can do with the ball." He's exactly the type of player I think, in terms of some of the characteristics he's got, like his ability to kind of press as well. He's very technically gifted. He's a clever little player. He just hasn't got that final cutting edge just yet. But I think someone like Ange can work with that. And it all depends on the player, I think, with Bryan Hill. If he wants to stay, then I think Ange will have some use for him in the squad for sure. That's just my opinion.
All right. Okay then. Well, I'm gonna leave.
You choose, Sean.
I think we put him in
key player. It is
squad then. He's not going to be a key. I don't think he's going to be a key player. We'll leave him in the squad. I like him. I don't want him to go. I think he'll probably want to. If he doesn't get guaranteed first team football, then I think he'll want to leave. But yeah, I think we'll keep him in the squad.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's move on. Otherwise, we could be all day long about that one. Let's talk about Serge Reguilon. Reggie. Let's start with Jacko on this one. Reggie, keep, loan, sell, first team.
Yeah. I've rationalized keeping him in the past, Sean. Like I just like Reggie. I just think there's like maybe I don't know, maybe I have my own revisionist history or something when it comes to like Reggie, but I don't think he was as bad as like people made him out to be. Like, yes, he liked to dive in the box, but like, you know, I don't mind that, you know, wins us a penalty from time to time. And I don't think he was as bad of a defender as people made him out to be. He was certainly a better defender than I think Sessegnon and Perisic have proven to be of recent, you know, as well. He was much better than I think going forward than Sessegnon ever was too. And he has also that sort of pace that, you know, is kind of quite useful at times. He's very, very quick, Reguilon, when you need him to be. He's never really played this last season. He's had a ton of injuries. I'm just, you know, like maybe his career has sort of taken a bit of a, you know, a slide. And so I'm just sort of basing my opinion off of the Reggie that we had before we kind of got rid of him. If that Reggie is still in there, I think that would be a useful squad player for the likes of Ange Postecoglou, where you don't need to bring in another left back and have to just, you know, spend more money, and maybe he's actually useful for a year. But I don't know. Spurs seem to be keen on selling him, maybe because there are people that want to, you know, actually take him, you know. So I would put him in the squad personally, but I'm not too fussed about where he goes. I just feel like, you know, Reggie wasn't as bad as people think.
I think into the bin, because I think we. Well, I know in myself. If I think about Reguilon, the reason why I'm kind of looking at him through misty eyes is because Sessegnon was just so shit. So compared to that performance, Reguilon was maybe a bit better than that. But if I think back to when Reguilon was in a Spurs shirt and when he was kind of moved out from the squad last pre-season, I thought that was the right move. So I just don't think he's good enough.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same opinion as Paul. I know I'm going to disagree with what Jack was saying, because I am one of those fans, unfortunately, that looks at Reguilon and I don't forget the bad performances he had as a defender.
Yeah.
And if you look at people complain so much about Perisic and his defending, but I think Reguilon was just as bad as in defending. I think so Reguilon's first 6 months at Spurs under Jose Mourinho, right? It was very good. It was really good, right? And then the second half of the season, he just did not do the same. It was a completely different player. And then the season before he left, he was in and out. He was hit and miss at times. Sometimes when Sessegnon played, he looked better defensively. Sometimes Reguilon looked better defensively. That's true. I agree. I just think that he's definitely better going forward than Sessegnon, and he's definitely got a good cross on him. But if you actually look at the amount of chances he had, he can't finish. His finishing is just dreadful, right? And when you compare it to like someone like Porro, who's probably in the same kind of ilk, but just a much better finisher, I think I just think with Reguilon, I think we just need to get rid of him, to be honest with you. But I understand that there's so much to do in this squad. I don't know if whether Postecoglou might look at it and think, well, maybe let's see what he can do for one more season, and then
tolerate it for a season.
Yeah, tolerate it for one season, because we're gonna have a Doji in as well, and we'll see if he can do a job. But if it was up to me, I would tell him.
We can only keep two of. For the left back role specifically, we can only really keep two of Sessegnon, Reguilon, Udogie, and Ben Davies and Perisic. So two of those five, right? The other three.
I mean,
are we all agreed that Perisic disappears? Are we all agreed that he goes?
Yeah, he's gone.
I think Perisic is gone. Yeah, I would like him to stay in an attacking role, but that's just me. But I think Perisic is gone. So then when you look at the options, right, and what we actually need to do in the squad, maybe Jack's onto something. Maybe he does stay in the squad for one more season. Like, if you're looking at that, I mean, I want him sold, but just looking at it,
I'd take 15 million for him if someone gave us.
So would I.
Million,
yeah, so would I, Jack.
But,
so would I.
Think Spurs are going to be maybe haggling over him, because I think they could think, like, if he plays like Spurs always do, let's say he plays 20 games under Postecoglou and like doesn't look that bad, then they feel like, all right, now we can get 20 million, out of it. Get our money back and everything. Like, I do see them looking at it that sort of way.
Yeah, and just because there's so much we need to do already on this, and if we lose Harry Kane this summer, which I don't think we will, that's another thing you've got to sort out. So I think it's too much if you have to sell Reguilon and then get another left wing back in. It's just, I agree. I think he'll be a squad player this season.
All right.
What do you think, Sean?
Just quickly, I think that I'd rather have, if it's like shag, marry, kill, I'd rather bin. Where is he? Oh, I just done. Sessegnon, bin that.
Up,
bin him. I want him out of the way.
Yeah.
I'd like Reguilon. I'd like Reguilon. I think Reguilon could have a second chance with me personally. And I'm going to move these around, but I think that Udogie becomes a first team player. I think Reguilon should be a squad player. I think that Sessegnon is in the bin. Perisic is in the bin. And I think that you make the argument that Ben Davies can stay, but as a centre-back, left-back hybrid. Because, you get like 25-man squad. So that basically assumes 2 players for every position, plus a third goalkeeper. And then you've got 2 utility players that could be whatever, like wherever you want to go with those last 2 spots. For me, one of those is Ben Davies, because I feel like he can play. He could be the third left-back sort of option, or the third centre-back option on the left-hand side. But yeah, Sessegnon and Perisic, sayonara. Don't need them anymore. Before we get into it, I do want to get Paul's take as well. There's 620 odd people in the house. It's insane numbers. Thank you so much, guys. Please smash the like button for me. I think we got I don't know how many likes we got right now. Less than half. 267.
That's disgraceful. Come on. We need to double that.
To call this one out already. So sorry. New member, Tot Spurs. Big up, Tot Spurs. Thank you so much for your support, my man. Really appreciate you joining the Spurs Talk Show family, the puppies or the ponies. And also, we have got a super chat as well from John from a while back, actually. John, I do apologize, my man. Thank you so much for it as well. Great show, lads. Excited for Age to begin. 4 more years, mate. We've got AngeBall to talk about for a long time. Big up, John. Really appreciate you, buddy. Paul, what's your take? Let's combine for the purposes of time, because I do need to be out of here. I've got a hospital appointment in a little while. Sessegnon, Perisic, Reguilon, Davies, and Udogie. That's the kind of left that kind of conversation there. I've gone for Reguilon to squad, Udogie first team, bin Perisic and Sessegnon, and then Ben Davies for me sits in the squad as well. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I'd go along with that, but I'd bin Ben Davies as well. I want to upgrade him. I mean, we won't get rid of him because no one will be around to make Daniel's tea for him. So, but I guess he is useful to have hanging around because he can play centre back, and he can sort of stand in the pitch in the penalty area, and he can stand on the pitch near the edge of the pitch, I suppose. Yeah, I'll just go along with you. What you say there, I'm cool with that. Easy.
Do you not, Sean?
What about you, Danny? Go on, mate.
Do you not think Adoji would be a key player next season? If you look at the options we have.
I think he'll be a regular first team player, but I just don't know enough about him, if I'm honest, mate. Like, I don't know how he's going to transition in. I don't know whether he's really that capable defensively. I know that he's done brilliant things in Italy with Udinese, but I don't really know enough about his style to think whether or not he's going to fit. I don't know if he's an inversion. I know he's good down the left-hand side with his left foot, but Postecoglou likes to have someone who's ambidextrous who can cut in and play the inversion as well.
He's good at. Yeah,
he is good at cutting infield. He actually seems to love that, from what I can tell. He likes taking it past his guy.
I'm happy to bulk out the key player. The key player. Yeah.
Let's start on a high. Why not? It's all downhill from you.
Davies, I do think needs to be sold though, Sean. Like, I think the way he ended the season was terrible. Like, and I've defended Davies in the past because I've always said, and I think you've said this with me too, Sean. It's like he is better than Dyer, Sanchez, Tanganga, and crew, but like the way he finished the season was really dreadful. Like, Mbuemo from Brentford destroyed him, and then I believe the game after that he got destroyed again. He showed that he cannot play left back. He cannot play left back.
He can't.
Going up the pitch, he was so bad, wasn't he? He'd he'd go up 10 yards and then try and stop and go inside. And he just couldn't do it, man.
Postecoglou will hate him for how much he passes backwards.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I that you're absolutely spot on with Ben Davies. I think I always remember the game against Fulham, in that game where we got that penalty decision with Jose Mourinho, and they absolutely battered us at Craven Cottage, and we won the game 1-0 for that dodgy penalty decision, where then they changed the rules afterwards for the handball rule, right? That game, that was the last time I saw Davies play as a left back until this season. And I said to myself, I never want to see him play as a left back again, because he got ripped apart so badly in that game. I think that ended his career as a left back. And when I saw him towards the end of the season, kind of going to those positions as well, he was just terrible. It was a couple of games he was all right, and then it just capitulated. And then, like the Ben Davies we kind of expect to see, sort of thing. And for me, he's been at this club far too long as that utility type of player. And I think if we can get rid of him for 5 million, a couple million, I'd get rid of him. And Adoji, I'm only going key player on Adoji because based on what we've got, it's not really a lot. So
no, I like it. It's nice. It's nice to see 4 key players. There might be 1 or 2 others that creep in there. Let's just cut this number down pretty quickly. We know Hugo Lloris is out of here, so he can see you later, Hugo. Thanks for the memories. Let's talk about Eric Dyer. Are we binning this man?
Come on.
Yeah. Put him straight in the bin. He should be top of the list.
Bin, yeah. Yeah, you're right. Put him right.
No second chances, no nothing.
Reimburse us for our healthcare this season.
I'm putting him ahead in the list of people that have already left the club.
I agree.
No humor.
Bang on, Sean.
All right.
He can earn his keep by giving out handies on the North Circular somewhere.
All right, let's now move to Fraser Foster.
Squad.
Yeah, definitely squad.
One of the
happy
signings
for him
of
to
the
stay.
season.
Yeah, the signing of the season. It's ridiculous, isn't it? Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, one thing I've really liked about Foster is maybe, although his shot stopping isn't as good as peak Hugo, he looks so much safer on the ball. Like when the ball comes to him, I'm not shitting myself, and generally he pings it out pretty well as well, pretty quick and confident.
He's a good backup keeper. I think he just showed that. I think he's a good backup keeper. I think he's a regular standard backup keeper. Like, he proved to even be better than most other backup keepers in the Premier League by the looks of things.
Definitely, completely agree.
I'm not even sure who this is. That Brandon Austin, the guy with
Whiteman, I think.
We need
to find him a hipster loan. He went to Sweden last time. Maybe we could send him to Budapest or Bucharest or something like that. He likes the hipster loan spells.
Hipster loan.
Definitely
Like a Ferencváros or something out in Hungary. something.
I would like to see him like go up a level, like go to like the Championship or something. I would really like to see him, or like a lower league Premier League team. If he could get that, I think that would be really good to really judge what his ability could be. But he's getting on a bit, and yeah, we need to see what he can do.
He always comes back with a new haircut.
Yeah, he does.
He's a good
That's
looking
true.
guy. I don't know, I feel like you could send him out to Japan. All the Japanese girls would love a bit of him, and do some sort of swapsies with someone else. Yeah, exactly. Go to Yokohama, pick up whoever their next Mitoma is or whatever, and then we'll send him out there and have a good time.
Good shout.
All right, whilst we're at it, let's get Brandon Austin as well. Are we sending him on loan?
I think we're going to keep. I think he'll be the third keeper. Yeah, I think he's going to be the third keeper this season. I think he'll be in the squad.
Yeah. All right. Any other thoughts on that, Paul? Are you okay with that one?
No, I'm cool with that.
The homegrown pawn.
I think we're getting into the ones now. Let me get rid of this one. Davinson Sanchez straight in the bin.
Yep. Straight in the bin.
Right behind Eric Dyer. Ahead of Lucas Moura, who's already left the club. Yeah, as usual, Paul, exactly, yeah. All right, he can go. Let's talk about Christian Romero. Is he going to be a key player, guys?
First team, he's got to earn some respect back. He's got to get some love back from the fans. He had a very mixed season. Even though I'm one of his biggest fans, he had a very mixed season. He turned off at times, looked like he wasn't giving his all in certain games, and then in others he was smashing through people and showing us his real version of himself. But then the game after, he wouldn't do it. And wouldn't be. He just wasn't consistent at all this season. And
he wasn't.
First team, I think. First team, you build the team sort of around him in a way, but you still also make it clear that last season is not really acceptable either.
Of course, I only again would put him in key player just based on the default. Like, he is just the best defender we've got, considering even though he's been poor. I just can't see Ange going and picking Tanganga or Dyer or Sanchez or whoever else is there ahead of Romero, and I think he's going to be one of the first names on the team sheet just because he's better than the rest, kind of thing.
As long as there's not an Argentinian international coming up, and then he'll be.
Here we go. It's the Illuminati time, isn't it?
We'll put him in the key player. It's nice to see 5 key players. At the moment, guys, of a 25-man squad, we've got 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We've only got 13 players. So, I don't know how many more of the last 8 to go through. I don't know how many more are going to sneak into the squad, first team or key players. So let's find out. Let's find out. Let's talk about Pedro Porro.
Where's the prison tab?
Where is the prison? He's got to be a first teamer, isn't he? He's going to be in there with Decky.
Yeah, I think so. I think first team, yeah, definitely.
He'll be competing with Decky.
Oh, Decky's in the squad role, isn't he? Decky's there in squad. Okay, we're putting the pair of them. We're going to put Romero in the first team and squad. And
I put Decky as a first teamer. I mean, if that was me,
Pedro Porro had a better end to the season, so I think it's just up to them to battle it out. I think at right wing or whatever position it may be, or if Kulu wants to play through the middle, he could try out through there. But we might bring in a Madison or somebody.
Yeah, that's true.
So it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're moving down to the interesting ones. Oh, Rodrigo Bentancur. Sorry, that's a key player, right?
Key player,
any day.
Yeah,
all day long. Okay, no need to worry about that. I'm not sure who this player is here. That looks like Pierre Højbjerg, and that's Højbjerg.
Oh, must be Højbjerg. Yeah, that's 5, isn't it?
What are we doing with Højbjerg?
Gone. He's just a slow holding midfield player. I don't think he fits in at all. I think we might be able to get a few quid for him as well.
I don't hate that at all.
Yeah,
to be honest.
I think Højbjerg will be a squad player unless we get. I think Ange will use him like not as a key player or a first teamer. I think he'll be in and around. He'll be part of the squad. Unless we get like a good offer for him, where Tottenham are like, we can actually do that money. Because I think out of everyone we've got, apart from Kane and Son, I think he's probably the most tangible asset that we could sell and actually make some money off.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. for me, there's just so much work that needs to be done this summer, right? With players that are just worse than him. And I think they've got to focus on that first before we start getting Højbjerg out. And I know Højbjerg has been a hit and miss this season, but let's be honest, he's still better than like your Harry Winkses and those kind of players. I think he's probably to an extent better. He's better than Skip. I just think he's a good player to come off the bench. To be honest with you, I think he's someone good to come off the bench, and I think that's how he's going to be used this season. If I'm honest,
I don't mind him staying as a squad player. I don't want to see him
unless we upgrade him.
Yeah, if someone comes in and bids 35 million quid for him, then you bite your hand off. Thank you very much.
100%.
Well done, mate. You're an absolute champion. Good luck, goodbye. But I also don't mind him coming off when we're 2-0 up in games or 1-0 up in games or whatever, and then you bring him on for the last 30 minutes to shore up the team or whatever. But well, so should we give him the respect of leaving him as a squad player then?
It's up to you guys. I say squad, but it's up to you guys.
I think Danny's spot
on.
on.
Paul wants him gone though.
I want him gone, man. I want him gone.
I'll shirt swapper though.
He just doesn't look like a Tottenham player to me. He never has. But I see what you're saying. He's useful if you're. If like the 70th minute ticks over and Ange thinks, oh, we're knocking the ball around too quickly, we need to slow it down, we'll bring Højbjerg on.
His greatest strength is his availability. Like, I think that's what people forget. He's always available, and like other players aren't available. Other players are injured. He's never injured and is always there to be picked.
True.
And so he just ends up getting into the team. And when he puts in good performances, and he's always never hurt, like coaches just get won over. And he's probably the most parched player in the team. And the fact that like he's always standing by the water cooler, talking to the coaches, to them and everything.
I just think for me, he's behind Sarr, he's behind Basuma, he's behind Bentancur. I mean, maybe squad
better than Skip, I think.
Yeah, he's better
I put him
than
in the
Skip.
squad out of respect for him because he does play like 4,000 games a season, and he always seems to be fit. So I'll give him the respect, but I don't know if he goes as Paul, to your point, mate.
It's like the difference from sell to loan, just for the fact that he's one of the very few players that gets injured at Spurs, doesn't get injured at Spurs, and how many of our players do get injured?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Yeah. All right, I've completely forgotten to get this one. This one probably belongs up here, just not quite as early.
Yep.
Harry Winks. I don't know. They somehow managed to find a picture of him with a winner's medal around his neck. I don't know what that's from. But
that's the Champions League runners-up medal, I think.
Oh, is it? Oh, that's what it is, isn't it? You're right. Yeah, spot on. Yeah. Are we all happy with Harry Winks in the bin?
Yeah.
Yeah. Get him out.
All right, last four guys. Jed Spence first. What are we thinking about Spencey boy?
Squad.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a squad player next season.
Did he go on all right this year in the end, or not really?
No,
not really.
Not great.
Not really.
Didn't do much.
He had a good game against PSG, but like in the Europa League, it didn't go too well for him. And in other games, basically didn't go too well for him. He did very well against PSG in a big high-profile game, but the moment that I think his name is like Traore or something, got back from injury, he just immediately got like thrown back to the bench and like eventually wasn't even like named in the squad, a few times. Even when like fully fit, he wasn't even like named in the squad,
I think that's do you know what? That's quite telling, right? Because the stuff that I've heard about him and how he trained at Spurs under Conte wasn't listening to what the manager was and the staff wanted, getting his parents to come down to complain that he wasn't playing, wasn't training. That for me tells you everything about the person in terms of it's like he's got a divine right that he has to play, and that he doesn't have to work as hard as other people just because he's got ability, right? Ability doesn't get you everywhere. It doesn't get you anywhere in football unless you've got the other side of the game, which is your determination, your desire to want to train hard, and then prove yourself, prove to the manager that you're going to get into the team. And if he couldn't even do that at the club that he was at in the French league, I mean, what does that tell you? I mean, I think Ange will speak to him and give him and see what he feels like. But I'm telling you this for a fact: if he's anything like he was under Conte in training, and he's not going to listen to Ange, he's gone. He'll be sold. I'm telling you.
Yeah, Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
100%.
I heard the same as you, Danny, about the parents getting involved, and that was a real red flag for me. You know, he's not a kid; he's a man. And I think even though there's a player in there, whether that's the right sort of attitude to have around, I'm not sure.
Well, they actually went to it. They actually contacted.
What are we saying then? Are we saying loan him back out?
Yeah, I mean, look. Yeah, let's loan him back out. Yeah, let's loan him back out. I'd like to see what he's capable of if he went to like a Nottingham Forest in the Premier League. Somewhere where it's more comfortable for him. And actually, like for me, I think the only way to judge this player really is to have him like kind of like a Kyle Walker style loan. When he went to Aston Villa and he went and played Premier League football week in, week out. I think you need that with Spence. I think he needs to play a higher level of football, the highest level possible, right, in the Premier League. And then if he's able to kind of progress from that, like, then maybe he might have a chance of coming back into the team and actually having an impact for us. But yeah, I think he needs a loan.
Okay. All right, we'll put him in the loan bucket for now. Last three. Clement Longley.
No.
I don't think he suits a Postecoglou system with the high line. I just think it's too slow. Yeah.
Yep.
I don't think there's as much need for the. Sorry, Jack. What was that, mate? Say that again, Jack.
The Techers against Leeds, Sean. Don't you remember the Techers against Leeds?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, put him in the 10 then. No, I don't think he's. I don't know if the kind of the ball playing side of his game is going to be as necessary when you're sitting on the halfway line. And I feel like you are a player that's got bags of pace. And the one thing I learned about him is that he has none, and he takes forever to turn. He's like an oil tanker at sea. So I don't think he makes any sense in bringing him back unless there's anyone who's got a counter argument for him.
Nope.
He's the best player on the ball in our whole team. That's what he proved, I think. You're right. Defensively, he was a bit of a liability at plenty of times. I think he was still a better defender than Dyer and Sanchez, though. That's not saying much. Don't believe that. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, before people, get on my case, that's not saying much. But I do think he did prove to be better than on the ball than anybody else. Like, he was unpressable. Like, he proved to be unpressable.
100%.
Like, and that was a valuable.
I thought he was a good player. I thought he did well. I thought he was in a terrible defense. I thought he was like pretty good. I just don't think he suits this particular system. He sits better system if he's if the team is sitting back on the edge of our box. When you're sitting on the halfway line, much space behind, you need players that have got legs, and I don't think he has any. So
I agree.
All right then. If we're okay with that, last two. Before we do a recap, let's go for Gio Lo Celso. Is there any reprieve for Gio Lo Celso? Does he have a future in any way, shape, or form? I think this might be an interesting conversation on this one. Paul, I'll start with you, mate. Where does Gio come in?
I can't see him being better than Sarr, Basuma, Bentancur, Højbjerg. I just can't see it. I can't see it. Whenever he's played, I mean, I don't know how he's playing at the moment, but whenever he's played with us, he's just been uninspiring. I can't see it.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough, Jack.
I just think this again is just my opinion. I just think he's really overrated, actually, genuinely. Like, whenever I watch him play, there's so many times that, yes, he presses well, and yes, he kind of like retains possession with those little kind of one-touch passes and, things like that. But like, I often don't really see Lo Celso actually play like a killer through ball or be able to actually hit one from 30 yards. Like, there were times when I was joking, like, he can't even get the ball like 6 yards off the ground. It feels like when he's hitting it, he didn't have like any sort of power when he even tried to, strike a ball and things like that. And I just feel like Lo Celso too was always injured, even more guilty of what you feel like is the case with Romero, Sean, with international duty. He was even more guilty of that than like Romero was. And I don't know, like, for me, the moment I was done with him was when I remember we played last season or under Nuno or Conte. I think it was Conte. Like, Sonny was like clean through on goal. All he needed to do was just like inside the left foot pass, in behind. He played it with the outside of his foot. It went behind Sonny, and it just ruined, like, it was like what Kulu did, like, with Leeds, like, the other day. It just made me done with the guy, like, forever. And I don't know. I just think he's overrated.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
I agree. I agree. For me, go on, Danny. I'll let you go. You go next.
No, go on, Sean. Go on.
No, I was going to say I agree with what both of you were saying. I don't think he's got a place. I hated his attitude when he was at Tottenham. I always remember him not being able to kick the ball above knee height. Like he's got like the kicking power of a 7-year-old girl. And no disrespect to 7-year-old girls. I don't think he's good enough. I don't think he likes being in England. I don't think he's a good player. If Unai Emery wants to come in and take him to Villa and they're prepared to pay 20 million quid for him, I will bite your hand off. I'll even take the man, the ungrateful little so-and-so, in my BMW M1 old 1999 car all the way up to Aston Villa for him and drop him off and give him a little kiss on the cheek on the way out. See you later, Gio. Any thoughts for you, Danny?
Yeah, do you know what? Lo Celso reminds me of like how when if you like you play FIFA, right, and you don't look at any of the stats, or you look at a player and you're like, oh wow, you look at his goals and assist stats, right? The season we signed him, he scored 16 goals. It's like Spurs looked at that and goes, oh, do you know what? He scored 16 goals. He's going to be good. And then they sign him, they get him in, and then they open up the stat log on his actual stats. Passing 10, shooting 2. It's like, oh shit, we've actually got a dud here. And it's like they completely fucked up the recruitment on Lo Celso and didn't look at anything else other than what he did the previous season in terms of the goals he scored. It was just a complete mess bringing him into the club. And yeah, for me, I'm with you, Sean. I would happily drive him up to Aston Villa and send him packing. To be honest, he can go and play Unai Emery ball and see. Let the Villa fans deal with him for a bit of time, so we can have him off our chest for a bit.
Just take yourself back to the Stop That GLC Twitter account. That's all you need to know. Just like remember when that Twitter account like blew up for like a month. They had like 100,000 followers like within like a month. Everybody was like so relieved to be seeing somebody like taking the piss out of Lo Celso. So I just think like it's that's where we were at one stage with them. Like people really hated that guy. So I don't know if we can really go back to Lo Celso.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's very disliked generally as well when he was here. He wasn't a popular figure in the dressing room, so we're putting him in the bin. And lastly, but by no means least, we've got 8 minutes before I have to wrap this up, guys. So I've got to get to a doctor's appointment. But Tanguy Ndombele, the last one, I deliberately left him to last. There is mixed action. Some people in the Twitter sphere think he's bring him home. Other people are saying send him back. I don't know. Where do we go with Tanguy Ndombele? I'm not entirely sure whether there is any kind of reprieve for him. Like in a very much more compact 11, where run quite as much. So I don't know whether or not there's any value for Tanguy here. I'll let who wants to start? Danny, you can start this one, mate. Cool.
I'll start on this one, right? So with Ndombele, obviously I want him gone, right? I don't really want it. I don't think he's got. I do want him gone, right? But I'm gonna look at this from Levy's point of view, right? Yeah. There's not many teams out there that are gonna afford his wages, right? So unless again we loan him out to another club, there's no one that's gonna buy him. And I feel he's got 2 years left on his contract, right? I don't see. It might even be 3 years, actually. I'm not sure on that. But if it is 3 years, it is 2 years, yeah. So he's got 2 years left on his contract. I just cannot see Ndombele, the type of person he is, like making a deal with Levy to like cut his Tottenham career short to end his contract now, right? I think he's the type of player that would sit on a bench for 2 years, happily take his 200 grand a week, right? And he wouldn't give a shit because I don't think he cares about football as much, right? As any, I don't think he cares about it. I think he's in it for the money, right? As much as he's got the ability, I think he's let his ability take him to where he is, and he hasn't ever progressed because he doesn't have that determination or desire to want to be the best player in the world or one of the best players in his position, which he has the potential to be if he changed the attitude side of his game. Now, looking at it from Levy, I just think that from what I'm seeing on the reports, obviously we don't know if it's true. I think that it will be. I think Postecoglou will speak with him and see if he fits what he wants to do. And I've got a funny feeling we're going to see Ndombele in the squad next season, just because I just don't think we're going to be able to move him. That's the only thing. And I think it's more of it's like a last saloon chance for Daniel Levy. Like, you know what, Ange, just try him one more time. Just see how he does. If he doesn't, then we'll try to get rid of him, kind of thing. I think that's what it's going to be like this season with him. And if Ange don't like him, I think he'll be gone in January. And it'll probably be another loan somewhere.
All right. I mean, I'm indifferent. I think that there is a space in the squad. Looking at the space, we have got space in the squad for some. Looking at this tier maker, I'll come to you, Jack. I know you've got thoughts on Tanguy. Are they? I know you said at the start before we got into it, you said that you could do a whole show on him all by himself. What's your take on Tanguy?
I just loved Tanguy when he first came here, because I genuinely did think at the time that was one of the best. I did think when we originally Spurs got him, I was like, this is one of the best midfielders in Europe. He's ridiculous. He can do whatever he wants on the ball. He's unpressable. He just makes a mockery of people. And then the attitude, of course, is just a huge issue. And is Ange Postecoglou willing to babysit Tanguy and Ndombele, and just give him everything that he wants, make sure that he's always happy, make sure that, he's, running his hardest. You always have to keep an extra eye on him, right? You can't just treat him like the rest of the players. You have to also have that sort of extra focus on him. And is Ange Postecoglou willing to do that? I would think probably not. I don't think he's going to give anybody that sort of special treatment. But at the same time, Tanguy and Ndombele did very well under Jose Mourinho, because Jose has that sort of charisma. He has that ability to kind of, get through to people. And to a degree, Ange, if he has, if he sees talent in Tanguy and Ndombele, maybe Ange is backing himself to be able to get through to Tanguy, kind of like how Jose did. And if he can get through to Tanguy how Jose did, let me be frank, it's like babysitting the guy. But if Ange Postecoglou feels like he can babysit him into, being a great player again, I'd say he is worth keeping in the squad. But if that's not the case, that's a lot of ifs. That's a ton of ifs. And so probably just sell and, make your life easier. But if you want to make your life hard, Sean, keep him.
I think, do you know what, Jack? Just to add to your point very quickly, I think Ange will look at it, right, and look at what he could offer. And I think when you said about how he's very press resistant, right? Ange loves players that have got amazing ball retention, right? Ball possession based players, technically gifted players, which let's not argue that Ndombele has that in his locker, right? He's an unbelievably press resistant player. He's got unreal technical ability. His only downfall is obviously his attitude and his desire to want to play football. But if you use him the way Napoli used him this season, coming off the bench for the last 20 minutes of games to kind of try and keep the ball, he could be that perfect type of player. And then it at least gives Ndombele the chance to show Ange that he can be part of this squad if he wants that. And I think Ange will make the right decision. And I think this season, I do think we'll see him probably part of the squad. I just think anyway.
Paul?
No, I think you just sit him in a big trebuchet, cut the rope, fire him over the English Channel. I don't even care where he lands. I just don't like his attitude. He was never a player. He was never a player that had anyone else's back. Selfish players can all be well and good, but if someone buggers something up or loses the ball, it was never Ndombele that would back someone up. So he's not good enough.
Can I ask you a question, Paul? Can I ask you a question? Do you trust Ange Postecoglou?
Absolutely. If Ange says keep him, then keep him.
Yeah. All right.
The word of Ange.
Well, that's it, guys. So let's just do a recap real quick. In Ange we trust. Right, so we've got in the bin. We've got Eric Dyer bin, Harry Winks bin, Sanchez bin, Lucas Moura bye, Danjuma bye, Joe Rodon sell, Perisic bin, Sessegnon bin /sell, Ben Davies sell, Hugo Lloris bin, Clement Longley send home, Gio Lo Celso bin, Tanguy and Ndombele. We've said bin, but he could end up in the
subject
squad.
to Ange.
Subject to Ange.
Yeah. Bin or key player.
Bin or key player. That's absolutely right. And then in the loan system, we've only gone for 4 loans out of the entire squad. That is both. That's Ollie Skip. That is Tanganga. That is Alfie Whiteman. and Jed Spence, which puts a lot of pressure on our homegrown numbers. In the squad status, we've got Decky, Pape Matassar, Brian Hill, Serge Reguilon, Fraser Foster, Brandon Austin, and Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. He could have been in the bin, or he could have been in the sell column, but we out of respect, put him in the squad. First teamers this season, which kills me to say it, but I think the Rishi might just suit this system, even though I don't want him, but he might just suit it very nicely. Emerson Royale is a first teamer, and Pedro Porro we see probably being more used than Decky, although that'll be an interesting rotation. And then key players, we've got Heung-min Son, Harry Kane, Bissouma, Udogie, Romero, and Bentancur. So, on that note, we only have 9 players out of the entire squad that we see as first teamers. The obvious omissions are a second centre-back and a goalkeeper.
Yep.
We have obviously got, and then we got 7 more players that can fit in the squad. In total, in terms of the squad, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We've only got 16 players, which alludes to the fact we've got 9 spaces in the squad. And we can fill with whatever money old Daniel Levy pulls out of his backside.
I think that's about right.
Paul,
actually.
Go on,
Paul. I was going to say, I think that's about right.
For all the fannying around we've done for 2 hours, we've come to the conclusion that every Spurs fan knows we need a goalkeeper and a centre back. Doesn't matter who's the manager, how you slice and dice it, and it's been that way for a few years for the centre backs and a year for the goalkeeper. Let's hope they do something about it this window.
Right.
Yeah.
100%.
I agree.
Actually, Jack, before I've got a couple of super chats that I haven't got to yet, so I'm going to let you guys take theirs real quick. Loves Music came in with one saying, if Ange gets a 4-year deal, which he has done now, is it wise keeping Kane? We did cover that earlier. Loves Music, we said that it probably will obviously leave it up to Ange, leave it up to Harry, but it probably does make more sense now if we don't necessarily know where Harry Kane's going to fit. He doesn't fit the natural 9 that Postecoglou plays. So unless Harry Kane wants to adapt to play in the kind of O'Reilly role, then it maybe makes more sense than not to go and raise the money. Thank you so much for the super chat. Wolves is in the house saying, can this SC keep Spence? What does SC stand for? Keep Spence in Spurs. Oh, can this super chat keep Spence in Spurs? Bare minimum squad, maybe even more. Thank you so much for the super chat, Wolves. He's saying, can it keep Spence? He reckons, so obviously Wolves has got a lot of love for Jed Spence. Jack, do you agree?
I think there's a potential possibility Spence could play that role where he's asked to sort of fill in midfield, cut inside a bit and sort of, add an overwhelm to the midfield. I think he'll probably struggle, whipping in crosses from the wide areas, but you think about it, like he has that sort of, ability to take it past players and sort of be kind of, good at sort of, just retaining possession. I think maybe if he came inside. So I don't know. Yeah. He has a future maybe in this one.
I reckon Wolves are going to win fuck all this year, so give him that one.
Big up, Wolvesy, mate. Appreciate you always stopping by, man. Thank you so much for the super chat as well. And last one from Hollywood Hotspur. Good to see you, buddy. I haven't seen you for a long time. Hope you're doing well. He says, better start putting up signs in the neighborhood. This is a massive garage sale, if you're in Hollywood. Look, we've only got, like I say, 16 players from the entire squad. And I think if you were to ask other Spurs fans, I know Sava, for example, would have pretty much everybody in the sell bin category, apart from maybe a couple of players here and there. I think that we've come to a fairly reasonable conclusion. But I do worry about the homegrown talent. We're happy to get rid of basically our entire homegrown quota. I don't think we have enough homegrown players there if our system has been... How many do we have? We have Harry Kane. 7, isn't it? 7 in the squad.
Wow.
I think so.
And I think we've only got Harry Kane.
Isn't it more strict in Europe than it is domestically? Yeah. So we're probably better off slightly just with the fact that maybe domestically it's not as much of a, like a strict sort of like homegrown versus non-homegrown sort of thing. Maybe we'll get 100%. Away with it.
Well, there you go, guys. That is your squad. Oh, sorry. Oh, go on, Paul.
No, that's what I was going to say. I think
Yeah.
that they will target some English homegrown players this summer.
Like Madison.
Yeah, like Madison. You might even see people might not like it, but if we're like, you might see someone like Maguire, maybe. Who knows? If you look at our defense, would Maguire fit that system? Postecoglou? I don't know. I think on the ball, yes, but he's also slow as fuck. So
Slow, man.
yeah, I don't think so. But who knows? Who knows? But I do think we'll get a couple of English players in this summer.
All right. Let's finish there, guys. I put the Tottenham on tour and Irish Hotspur links in the comments. I know, Paul, you haven't got a channel yet, and I'm sure you're going to start one this summer, this season.
I can't be asked all that. I'd have to say things like I'll click like and subscribe, and I don't give a fuck. So I'm happy to just
spreading the good word of Ange is good enough.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun, man.
No, I appreciate you coming on, Paul. It's always great to have you, mate. Jack, what is coming up on the Irish Hotspur, buddy?
Doing a Twitter reacts today to like just some funny related Ange stuff. Like, if anybody saw that meme of, Ange slapping every player across the face in the squad, those sort of kind of things. Doing a Twitter reacts and might do our own sort of like short welcome to Tottenham sort of thing. But we've been talking about Ange for a lot. So I think that'll only be like an hour long or something like that. So look out for that.
Nice. Make sure you get over there and watch that, everybody. And Danny, what's coming up? Is Tottenham on tour still live and kicking? Still busy?
I think so. To be honest with you, I'm not sure. I'm not really sure, but I think you'll probably see Brian Daigle at some point with Ben when Ben's back next week. I think so. You'll probably see something next week, I would have thought.
All right. There you go, guys. That's your the tier maker, and hopefully at the start, if you're around at the start, you got a little bit of insight from at least what I've picked up on the way that Tottenham could play under a Postecoglou system. Thank you so much to Jack for joining as always. Thank you for Danny, and thank you for Paul. Really enjoyed spending the last couple of hours with you. I'm off to go and get more tests done. Love you all. Like, subscribe, and comment. I feel dirty saying that now that Paul's just pointed out how pathetic it is to have to ask all the time.
But do it
anyway. Love you all. As always, guys, in Ange we trust. Is that a good way to finish now?
Yes, man. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs. Big Ange we trust.
Aussie. Coys.